This is my first time here at the World Economic Forum in Davos. And what's amazing about this place and this particular event that makes it very different from traditional tech events is you could be walking down the promenade and you meet the greatest minds in tech. And I stumbled upon Mohit Joshi of Tech Mahindra. What a pleasure to have you on the show,
Well,
Mohit.
very kind of you to say that, even if it's not true, but thank you.
It's entirely true. It's always a pleasure to chat with you on the show and talk about what the latest in innovation is. We meet at tech conferences so
Yes.
often, but now this is the wide ocean,
Yes.
right? Because you have all sorts of companies, world leaders over here, Mohit. You're a Davos veteran. What are the key takeaways this time from Davos? Tech and AI are the top topics that everyone's discussing?
No, unfortunately not. I think this is the first time in a couple of years where the top agenda on the table is very clearly geopolitics, right? When you're talking about, and look at how much has happened just over the past couple of months. You had Gaza in what seems almost like a lifetime ago. You had Iran just about 3 weeks ago. You had the whole Greenland, Iceland situation just over the past week. So I think the top item on the agenda has been geopolitics. I think AI is a close second for sure.
That gives me a good segue into my next point. So we'll get to the tech in the second half, but then leading a company like Tech Mahindra, which is truly global,
Yes.
right? How do you factor some of these geopolitical wins into what you're planning for the next 6 months or 12 months
Yeah.
every time we meet? Because this time there's talk of tariffs, there's volatility, uncertainty, and then you have President Trump coming and taking to the stage and changing everything overnight. How do you factor in some of these winds of change, Mohit?
Sure. So I think we broadly do it in three ways, right? The first thing that we have, fortunately for us, is we have a globally diversified business, right? So about half of our revenue comes from the Americas, about a quarter comes from Europe, and about a quarter then comes from Asia Pacific, Japan, and the Middle East and Africa, right? We have a very diversified business from an industry perspective. About 30% of our revenue is telco, but we also have a large manufacturing business, we have a large financial services business. So the diversification, both in terms of where we get our revenues, which sectors, which geographies, provides you a natural ballast, right? Because let's say, the US is challenged, Europe could be doing well, or Asia Pacific and the Middle East could be doing well. So I think the first thing is the way the business is structured gives us a degree of risk mitigation. I think the second thing from our perspective is the way we think about our people, right? At the end of the day, this is a business that is run, to my mind, by the best leadership team that I have working for Tech Mahindra, our Chief Operating Officer, our CFO, our CHRO, our CMO, our business unit leads. And so when you have that experienced and mature team leading the business, you obviously have a level of control. And finally, from a policy perspective, right? Look, we're very careful about what we do. We're very mindful about how we operate our business so as to make sure that we don't go in for the low-hanging fruit, because that can sometimes get you at risk. We make very sure that from a compliance perspective, we're always fully on the ball, and this is the philosophy of the group as well. From a cyber perspective, we make sure we're very well defended. So by making sure that you have structured the business well, by making sure that you really have the top team working with you, and finally by making sure that from a compliance and from a risk perspective, you have the right processes to keep the business robust, I think has helped us even in these times of great turbulence.
I've seen you rushing to meetings all over Davos Platz, and finally we get to meet. From some of your meetings with customers, leaders, and potential clients as well, what are some of the top things that you've been discussing? Have they been productive conversations? Again, I ask, has technology and AI just been lip service, or has it moved on from experimentation phase to perhaps deployment and larger issues like trust, security, regulations? Are these conversations?
No, absolutely. I think, look, Davos is always very productive because you get to the top of the house immediately, right? And you get to meet a lot of people, you get to meet a good cross-section across industries, across geographies. So you really get a very good composite picture. I'd say from an AI perspective first, I think the focus, as you rightly said, has moved from experimentation to large-scale deployment, right? And clearly, I feel there's a realization that large-scale deployment will not happen until the data estate has been simplified, until the applications have been modernized. So there is almost a virtuous cycle between get your data right, modernize and simplify your AI, modernize and simplify your applications, and then deploy AI. And then again, use AI to then simplify your data, use AI to simplify your apps, and then inject more AI. So I think that's the first piece. How do you get real value from AI? And obviously that requires a level of investment in the simplification and modernization journey. Secondly, as you pointed out, cybersecurity and security more broadly has been a very important topic, right? See, we're all talking about deploying agents, right? What are the guardrails around agents? How do you make sure that a bad actor doesn't hijack your agent and use it to exfiltrate all your data. How do you make sure that your agents have identity? Right?
Yeah.
What sort of entitlements do you give to a human employee versus to an agent, right? How do you make sure that an employee of yours has not shared his identity so that he is then controlling somebody, a rogue actor is controlling the agents within the company? So I feel that the issues of AI and security are very tightly linked, and I fear that if we don't get this right, it could really delay the deployment of AI because we haven't gotten the security guardrails in place yet.
Another fear that everyone in the tech world seems to have is about the AI bubble, so to speak.
Yes.
Right? Where some people are talking about AGI, Jensen talks of ASI, but the AI bubble in this larger super cycle of AI, like you said, things have been growing by leaps and bounds so fast, exponentially. As the CEO sitting at the head, at the helm of a company like TechM, do you feel the pressure sometimes? It's a fantastic set of earnings and results, congratulations, but then the way things move at a lightning fast pace, then the need to reimagine and innovate at your end would also subsequently be affected.
That is true. But look, I think the thing is that there's never been I've been in this industry since 2000. There's never been a time when you go back to the early 2000s, right? Maybe it was just the adoption of SAP at that time and people adopting relational databases for the first time, right? So I feel that there's always been a rapid pace of change in this industry. There is no doubt that the pace of change has gotten sort of amplified further over the past couple of years with the coming of AI, but change has always been a constant, and the industry always has been aspirational, right? The industry has been aspirational, has been learning new things, has been engaging at a at a different level. So that's I think the first piece of it. To your question about the bubble, it is possible that there could be a bubble, but where is the bubble? The bubble is clearly going to be on the data center side, on the hardware side, right? Not so much on the application side, because candidly, people haven't spent that much of money. Enterprises haven't spent that much of money on AI. The spending on AI has largely been limited, to a set of 5 or 6 companies and, maybe 5 or 6 data center providers, right? It's not been a widespread, it's not like Novartis has spent billions of dollars on AI, to be honest.
Everyone in tech and AI, especially here in Davos, has been talking about a phenomenon called capability overhang. AI systems and models that are already deployed are probably not being utilized to their full potential, right? So then it comes to the conversation on return on investment, right? How are you using that AI effectively? Are these some problems that you've identified, especially with the success that you've had with AI, I think with Orion internally and the stuff that you all have been working on with LLMs? Are these things that you have found as well, that probably existing systems should be used more effectively before you move on to building more compute resources and consuming more energy?
I agree. Look, I think the technology business has always been obsessed with the bright, shiny objects. And before, as you said, you fully utilized what you have, you always move on to the next. And there's also the thing that human adaptation or human adoption of technology takes time. People need to be convinced about the value. That's where customer journeys and employee journeys, for instance, become important. Are they intuitive? Are employees and customers seeing value from adopting new technologies? So there's a huge human element to it, as you rightly mentioned, that needs to be taken care of rather than purely the technology piece of it.
As my last question, I know they're talking about the AI market globally being nearly $500 billion, estimated to grow at 30-40% per year. But I have an even bigger question for you. Here in Davos, Mohit, what is your nightcap like? What is it like when you wrap up from all these business meetings and you just want to wind down? I know the food's there's not too many options when it comes to food, but what do you do in Davos when you want to wind down?
Well, so normally what I do is, so I'll give yesterday's example, right? I went for a dinner, followed that up with a nightcap. So at the nightcap, you get to meet a lot of old friends, you get to meet some clients and some partners. But I'm usually back. I was back by maybe 11:30 last night, because you need to get at good hours, at least 5 to 6 hours of sleep, because every single day, right? The thing about Davos is it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. It's not a one-day event. You have to pace yourself, and if you pace yourself, then you can go the distance.
Words of wisdom from Mohit Joshi himself. What a pleasure, as always, to chat with you.
Wonderful seeing you.
NDTV, wonderful seeing you.